What is something that old people love that you don't understand? There is this weird type of traditional Vietnamese music my parents said that only old people like and they could not stand it either. A decade later and apparently they enjoy it. I await my turn in fear. Edit. For those asking, it is Kai Luong. This is going to draw some hate, but once I reached my 50s, Bruce Springsteen's library suddenly became enjoyable. I'd always liked bits of his work here and there. But once I got old enough, bam, I get it. My girlfriend always says Steely Dan is old man music, but I've liked them since my early 20s. Steely Dan is timeless. Edit. I'm in my early 20s. I always think of Tony Soprano driving down the road. I don't wanna do yo dirty work no moa. I don't understand. When I was a kid, you two were old ladies. Now I'm old, and you two are still old. In my country, Brazil, old people sit in front of their houses and do absolutely nothing for hours, just watching people in cars go by. This is more common for lower social class. For instance, my grandma and her friends gather every day at someone's door and just sit there until the night comes. They are retired. I live in a very rural part of America, and old people do the same thing here. Old men will sit in front of their houses drinking beer and waving at cars that go by. It seems really nice actually. Guess there comes a point where you're content to just sit back and let the world come to you. Isn't this a gag in King of the Hill? All the men drinking beer and not saying anything but a random, yup, here and there. It's not just a gag, it was inspired by a real thing that happened when Mike Judge moved to Texas. He didn't really see his neighbors until he worked on his lawn fence, after which they appeared to hang out and talk exactly like they do in the alley on the show. I grew up in Garland, TX. Can confirm King of the Hill is an accurate portrayal of suburban Texas. Oldie here. I worked for a Canadian clothing store called Marks. I used to point our new arrivals to my daughter to see if she liked them, and she would say, "Ah, those are old people clothes." One day she came in, looked around and said, "You guys are starting to get some pretty good stuff." I laughed because nothing had really changed, and watched the expression on her face change as it slowly dawned on her. Looking at the women's section on their website right now, and it just looks like regular plain clothing. I'm 37 by the way. They already got to you. You've been marked. I'm a window cleaner and have a lot of elderly customers. Over the years I've found they love to be the first one to tell me one of the neighbors has died. To the point where if I say, "Yeah, Thelma already let me know," they look genuinely disappointed and annoyed that they weren't the one to break the news. To me, they just seem to like gossip in general. Death will certainly qualify. My dad is a baby boomer and he literally walks around the neighborhood, daily, to find out new information from the neighbors so he can come tell my mom tears of joy. He's so proud that he knows new info he can share. Community watch rolling on the floor laughing. My dad loves being the neighborhood guy. He has an egg guy, a farmer who sells him his irregular-sized eggs for something ridiculous like $1 for 4 dozen. And he distributes them to the neighborhood. My parents have a really nice pool he encourages his neighbors to come over to use any time. He has a generator and storage freezers, and when storms hit he offers to store frozen groceries and charge cell phones. He does free carpentry work. He makes booze out of fermented berries that he fuses with vodka and passes round. For a while he grew weed even though he has never smoked marijuana in his entire life, solely because he correctly assumed some of the neighbors would like it. He leverages all of his neighborhood power. Date for gossip. That's it. He gives them pot and eggs, they spill the tea. He goes around the neighborhood dispensing gifts and favors like some mafia don, and in return he gets to be the single most well-informed central gossip depository on his block. He is so proud to be able to tell me the marital problems of people I have never met and care nothing about. Everyone needs a hobby. Your dad managed to turn one hobby into several. That's pretty impressive. Without using this knowledge, power for evil too. My take on it, I'm not old enough, is that what old people value, most of them, is no longer money or adventure. They love comfort and people. Like it's their last chance to connect, to interact, to feel. Money and anything else stays here, but perhaps memories and feelings not. Edit. Oh wow, much obliged by the award's smiling face. Maybe they like talking shit like the rest of us. Watching the news constantly. My wife's grandmother was in long-term memory care for several years before her death. Towards the end, she didn't know what day it was, or if it was morning or evening, but she watched CNN 24 hours a day, and would lose her shit if somebody changed the channel, because she wanted to know what was going on. Same with my grandmother and local news. If someone changes the channel, hey, I'm watching that. Even if she's busy scrolling through her phone or reading the paper. She says it's because she doesn't want to miss if something happens. My stepdad does TH8s, he is in his 70s. Even though he is sleeping or in another room, or even outside for an hour, if he comes back to the TV is on a different channel, he always says, "Who changed the channel? I was watching that," telling anyone who will listen about their various ailments. Look, I'm 57, so I'm ancient by Reddit standards. But I vowed early on that I will not become one of these oversharing old people. My mill suffers from a paper-thin vagina. The rest of us suffer from hearing about it. Oh shit. She needs some Vagifem low. That internal cream will fluff out those walls in no time. Need to fluff up your vaginal walls? Use Vagifem and spread your wings, you beautiful butterfly. Ha ha. The cream made my labia grow back too. No joke. Everything shriveled up and I had like no labia minora visible anymore, just flat. And my vagina was just raw and irritable all the time. So after about a month on the cream, I checked with a mirror and I was like, OMG, I have labia minora again. It made it like 3x bigger. And my clit got bigger. I've learned more about vaginal atrophy from your comment than I did from medical school. Thank you, and please continue to share your experiences with other women. This is the beauty of Reddit. If mom needs an actual solution, bam, she's got one. If she's just complaining, people can tell her to stop oversharing if she's not interested in the solution. Fine china and silverware. It's pretty in the way anything made in bulk can be. It's expensive, has very little resale value, fragile as fuck, and virtually useless unless you're trying to impress another old person. Personal opinion. No hate. I use my grandmother's fine china as everyday plates. Even put them in the dishwasher. Freaks my mother out, but they are plates. They are serving their purpose in life. Why would I have extra plates I don't use except for holidays? I feel like it probably is a sentiment carried over from when fancy things were very expensive. So people took good care of them. For example, my grandparents were poor and lived in a rural village, and they would rent plates for holidays because they had none, so I sorta get it. But I also get your stance too. My wife's mother had dinner parties and broke out the fine china several times a year. It was a big deal in their house. So when we got married, we just had to pick out a china pattern and stemware. 15 years later, after collecting 8 full place settings, we have never used any of it. I don't see the point, but it's important to her, so I let her do her thing. Dinner parties. Those time you want to impress people. It used to be a show of wealth. Like expensive cars and wristwatches are now. Back when they were handmade, fine china was a status symbol. And the same with the silver. I've reached the tipping point. I love my hedge and some drunk kid fell in it. Big hole. Will take 4 years to grow back. This, get off my lawn moment awakened the old in me. Please just put a big round door there and live as a hobbit. Bitching about everything on the Nextdoor app. So, our town, less than 3,000 people, has a Facebook page where everyone is supposed to ask for assistance or find out when the next big trash day is. Instead, 90% of it is old people and Karens and Kens bitching about kids roaming the streets and the current political climate. Like, half the people in town are banned. I find hilarious. Edit. I think it is hilarious that this is my most upvoted comment ever. and it's just me shit-talking my small town that I actually love very much. My town has like 4 Facebook groups for the same goddamn small town because people keep getting banned, so they need to find another place to complain. I'm a member of all of them for shits and giggles, and they get progressively more toxic and insane with each one. Great fun to scroll through every now and then. I moderate one of those groups. Recently had to close comments on a post because a lady asked if she should take horse dewormer. I just left a comment saying, I was shitting down the post before people started eating Tide Pods again. Edit. I refuse to fix my typo. I'm laughing too hard. And GT. I was shitting down the post. It is inadvisable to use fence posts to wipe your butt. My dude.